The NWA is bringing the latest edition of the Crockett Cup, the legendary tag team tournament. That's coming up June 3rd to 4th at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Tickets are available at nwatix.com. You can also watch it on Fight TV. And a tag team that will be involved in that tournament joins me now on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. First, one of the absolutely rising stars in wrestling all over. He is the current NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. It is Kerry Morton. And then his tag team father knows a little something about tag teams because for the best part of 5 decades, he was one half of one of the tag teams that set the standard for tag team wrestling. Multiple time NWA World Tag Team Champions. It is the rock and roller himself, the Hall of Famer, Ricky Morton. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. How you doing?
Buddy, thank you very much for having us on your show. And I know that you introduced Kerry first, so do your thing.
Well,
they don't
make them like this no more. That's for sure.
I imagine. Kerry, I want to start with you. When did you decide that you wanted to follow in your father's footsteps and become a professional wrestler?
Oh my goodness. I think from the day I can actually remember, quote unquote, like watching my father, my hero, step in the wrestling ring on the Independence every weekend, traveling up and down the road all over the United States, watching him perform and do his thing is, I knew that I was destined to be a professional wrestler. With that happening, evolving over time, and I was fortunate that my dad got me into professional theater. I played sports. I did everything that would help me. I'm still, in college right now, being an athlete as well in college, a cheerleader for D2 University. But still, calibrating and making myself, trying to be that pristine professional wrestler. So very, very thankful to have, my family kind of throw me in this to get better at professional wrestling.
So I got to ask you say you're a cheerleader right now, and I forget it's a college in Carolina, correct?
It's a college in Tennessee, right on the Carolina.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right. So when you're cheerleading, do you wear the belt while you're cheerleading?
Listen, the champ takes the belt wherever the belt needs to go.
That's right.
So,
you got to.
Right. When you're the world champion of the world, you want everyone to know, and everyone does know already.
I'm talking about wearing it on the beach.
Oh yeah.
Going into Burger King.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? The champ flies first class, so the belt's going to fly first class with me.
No,
you're the champ 24/7.
I got to say this is really cool because Kerry is, and it's the same way Robert and I were. He's a traveling champion, and when you do that, matter of fact, we were just talking earlier. He defended his belt in Corpus Christi, Texas, Saturday night. But it's just another day at the office, fella. That's right. That's Absolutely. What we do in our business.
Well, let me ask you, Ricky. Yes. Did you when so your son decides he wants to be a pro wrestler? Did you have any hesitation? Were there any conditions that you put, like he had to do this, and this before you started training him? What was that like when your son decides he wants to do what you did?
Well, I'm a second generation wrestler too. My dad was a wrestler and a referee out of Memphis. I had one stipulation: that's get your education, and that's just the way it is. And that's great because working with NWA, Billy Corkin, he understood that. Kerry, which is there on contract, but Billy works with me because he knows how important it is to me for him to get his education. Because you see, and I'm going to tell you this right off blood, I mentioned this earlier, I never had guaranteed money in this business. I never made, some of these guys made more in one night, and I made in 40 years in this business. But you see, I can't blame nobody but myself because I didn't have the education. And he's going to have the education to know that. But no, I mean, he wanted to be a professional. I knew that when he was 5 years old. You got to understand, I raised him on the road with me. they're putting him through school and all this right here. And he was like me. He's eat up with wrestling. And I knew it was going to, but this is a great business. I'm not knocking this business, buddy. It's a great business. And if you do it right, and I think he's on that path of greatness, and I'm serious.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree. Kerry, let me ask you. So you at Hard Times 3 back in November, you defeated Homicide, who is, legend in the business, former Ring of Honor world champion. You defeated him to become the world junior heavyweight champion. What did that mean to you to be in the ring with someone like Homicide, who has been in the ring wars for so long, and to have the resume that he has?
Great question. Pound for pound, Homicide is one of the baddest dudes on the independents, and on the independents and wrestling in general, especially on the independent scene, I should say. Homicide resume speaks for itself. Being in LAX and Impact Wrestling and ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling and now NWA, holding that championship. And he was the first in the Lightning One era when Billy brought back the NWA World Junior Champion. He was the first to win that. And he held that belt high, high regards. So stepping in the ring was intimidating, to say the least. You have to go out there. At the time, I'm 21 years old. I'm from small town USA here in Bristol, Tennessee. And I'm going against Homicide, the 187. So with that being said, I knew that what was in game for me. I knew how to train and know how to prepare my mind. But, you never know what's going to happen until you step in that wrestling ring and you get slapped in the face. And then reality hits. And you're like, all right, everything sets in. So that being said, I knew what I had in store for me. I knew I was going to be a heck of a butt whooping, and which I took that night. And miraculously, I hit him with my kiss it goodbye finish. And, and then I had to play his own game, beating him with his finish that, he's beaten thousands of people with. And with that being said, I got the victory. So humbling to say the least, but one of the toughest matches I've had in my career.
I imagine. I've met Homicide several occasions, and you're right. Just, one of the toughest dudes in wrestling today. And even, after being in wrestling for so long, you're right. Ricky, I want to ask you, because, I watched you guys, the first time I saw the Rock and Roll Express, you guys were still working for Bill Watts in Mid-South. And you had, of course, the battles with the Midnight Express, and then you went to Crockett and all the good stuff. You look at tag team wrestling today, and you look at teams like the Young Bucks and the Usos and, the FTRs of the world. And without even hesitation, all of them will talk about how they look to you and Robert to do their style of tag team wrestling. As I mentioned, better part of 5 decades, you and Robert Rock and Roll Express. I mean, the legacy that you guys set, and you think about back in the day, it was the heyday of tag team wrestling with you guys and the Midnights and the Rock Warriors, Tully and Arn. And now 2023, it's still considered one of the highest, one of those plateau, moments. Just talk about the legacy of the Rock and Roll Express in tag team wrestling, even today.
Well, dude, this is something that I learned from my dad. We were in the territory days, and most of the territories, you had your bookers, you had the owners that ran the territory. But my dad always told me, so let me tell you something. In this business, tag team wrestling is going to be where it's at, especially for young baby faces, because most of your bookers and most of your owners up there, they wrestle single matches, and you got to have that tag team as a support of the card. But then when all this got to get together, and it was something new, because you got to look and say, here's Robert and I. We're 2 young guys, good-looking guys that go into that we go into the arenas. Your top good guys, not Abdullah the Butcher, that you got to bring it, because you're trying to draw a fan base. And all of a sudden, here Robert and I are on TV, 2 young guys that's all new. Now we just picked up a whole different audience.
Mhm.
Girls, and when you draw girls, you draw guys. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And going into that, but being in this business, and which I was fortunately, like the Midnight Express, Dennis and Bobby, when we first started, what workers, what wrestlers these guys were, man. Unbelievable. And Robert and I being young and having the opportunity to go through a run with them in Louisiana. But also, before that happened, you had Nikolai Volkov, Barry Dorso, wrestling once. So we learned all this right here to put it together to take it to the next territory.
Mhm.
But you was talking about all the tag teams you got today, and people look at FTR. Man, if you notice, sometimes watch them, they do a lot of Rock and Roll Express stuff.
Mhm.
And what a compliment that is to me. Our business is a great business, and the world still got a lot more to come. And I think tag team wrestling, like you said earlier, it's still hot in our business.
I couldn't agree more.
Think for imagine, night one of WrestleMania, the main event of
Yeah.
WrestleMania was a tag team match.
I was there. I was
Oh,
on
wow.
the floor. So yes, when
Yes.
I saw that, I got to thinking about, again, back in the day, I know Ricky, you and Robert would main event some of those Crockett cards around the territory. It was you and the Midnights, or you and Tully and Arn or whatever. And that main event at WrestleMania night one with Kevin and Sammy against the Usos. I think that was almost a love letter to the tag teams that set the table, like you and Robert. And it was really just wonderful to experience there live. Kerry, I'm going to ask you, because you and your dad are entered into the Crockett Cup tournament. What is it like and you guys have been tag teaming for a bit now. What's it like to tag team with someone that has probably forgotten more about tag team wrestling than most of us will ever know?
It speaks for itself, so to speak. We're firing on all cylinders, especially when we step into the NWA squared circle. We come to win, and that's something that we both are on the same page about. Obviously, a father and son duo is you kind of have that linger in between that, hey, I'm thinking one thing, and then he's picking up exactly, what I was thinking. So with that being said, we're firing all cylinders. We're training at the School Morton Wrestling Academy here in Chuckey, Tennessee. We're on the road every weekend on the independents all across the country. And it weighs in. This is less than 3 weeks away. We step into the Crockett Cup. The last one was back in 2019 before the pandemic. Ricky and Robert were thrown out by the Briscoes. Rest in peace, Jay. But paying homage, we want to come back. We want to do some justice and show the world that, hey, 66 and a 22-year-old, caliber of human beings come together and make something. And
Beauty and the Beast here, bro.
Beauty and the Beast. Stand up and we make something for ourselves. So if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. We're really, really looking forward to this event. He showed me so much. I was just with Robert last weekend. Robert was telling me some cool things that we should try as well. And Robert's in all support of us going out there and showing the world.
Absolutely. It's going to be so cool to watch you guys in the ring. Ricky, this is not your first Crockett Cup tournament. In fact, you were in the first two back in 85 and 86. I want to ask you, how cool is it to be in this tournament again, nearly 40 years after the first one? And B, is there a tag team that was in those first Crockett Cups that could succeed today?
That's good. Oh, question. Yeah. I think a lot of, you had the Road Warriors, golly.
Yeah.
Surgeon General even had a warning on him back in the wrestling days. All of them, 85 and 86, what set the tone for all tag team wrestling all the way up to now, from the Four Horsemen to the Midnight Express, the Road Warriors. There were so many tag teams. Rick Rude, Manny Fernandez. I just think of all these great wrestlers in our business. But to be a part, and one thing about Kerry and I, is like I told him. So what made Robert and I so successful is because when we got in the ring, we knew what each other were thinking. Something happened, we knew how to put it into place. Because see, in our wrestling business, you got to know when to do this and when to do that to keep this audience here at all times. And that's what I've been trying to teach Kerry here. But to be a part of this again in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, like you said, we're going to be at the fairgrounds. I mean, I just can't wait, because this is right in the heart and soul of NWA. The Carolinas, Charlotte, Greensboro, Winston-Salem's just right outside of Greensboro, North Carolina, where you had all you think, all your Starcades and all these matches where they first began and they started at. So, let me tell you, dude, when Kerry and I come to Winston-Salem, we're coming there to win. We're not coming there just to wear some new tights that night.
Yeah.
This is what,
That's exactly right. And just to add on to that is it's a big deal. I think we got a first seed. We were not competing in the first seed. We had a bye, so we're going straight to the second seed. So that means we're going to be a little bit more fresh than the other competitors that we're going against. But with that being said, we have our work cut out for us. Look at Mike Knox and Trevor Murdoch, for instance, two absolute giant beasts of men. Can you imagine if Rock and Roll and I have to go against those two guys? We have our work cut out for us. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying we have to prepare for the worst.
Yeah, that's why I go to the gym every day, if I can run from them. I'm just
Well, it's and it's going to be a fantastic tournament. You mentioned, of course, Trevor Murdoch, Mike Knox. You got Iris and Chris Masters. You got Love Rebellion, who are the current world tag team champions. It's going to be a stacked tournament for sure.
Hey, those guys are phenomenal.
They're phenomenal.
Sure.
If I can add just a little too,
sure.
I break a little news right now. I think that 4-time NWA World Tag Team Champions in the past, from the Lightning One era, that's Matt Signum and Elliot Russell, the Heat Sinkers, are now officially going to compete in the Crockett Cup for 2023. This is a big deal. I don't think necessarily just for the NWA, just for Infinite Wrestling, but just the tag teams in the tournament alone knows that what's coming is coming hard. And that's two men that you don't want to underestimate that are stepping in that wrestling ring. So just a testament to that. I'm breaking the news.
Okay.
I might get hurt for that, but whatever. I think it should be known.
But yeah, you're right. In the Heat Seekers, like you mentioned, 4-time former NWA World Tag Team Champions. They're known around the country. One of those great tag teams, and so it's great to hear that they will be a part of that tournament as well. NWA Crockett Cup, it'll be June 3rd and 4th at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Get your tickets if you're in the area, nwatix.com. If you're not in the area but you want to watch it, catch it on Fight TV. Before I let you go, Ricky, I want to ask you, and I know there are so many, but give me a memory or two of wrestling in Winston-Salem or in the Carolinas that sticks out to you.
Gosh, there's so many that sticks out. But, I got to say this right here. I had the opportunity, not only in tag team wrestling, but being a single wrestler, able to wrestle Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, and I'm just going to say this, to me, I think Ric Flair was the best world champion ever, because when Rick went to the ring, the people got what they paid to see. In the Carolinas, during that era, I wrestled Ric Flair 17 straight nights in a row in the Carolinas, and we did our time limit matches. And it's that really sticks out to me, even though all the great wins that Robert and I had. The first night that we ever arrived in North Carolina, Robert and I wrestled Ivan Koloff and Barry Dorso, which is Crusher Crusoe, for the world titles, and we won our first night in. Now that's one of the greatest memories that I can. It was the Victory Row that was heard around the world, and that was one of the greatest matches. Our first time to appear there and win the NWA World Heavyweight titles, even though all the bouts with Rick and the all the time limits that we went through, but you can never forget your first time, your first kiss, is when we won the world championship. That's the most important thing, I think, that really stands out in my mind.
I remember that rivalry well, watching it, unfold between you and Rick, and I think everybody would agree Ric Flair, the greatest world champion of all time.
Yeah,
so I think that you're not going to get much of an argument there. So he is the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, Kerry Morton, and his father and tag team partner, the Hall of Famer, Ricky Morton. You can catch them in NWA Crockett Cup, June 3rd and 4th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Get it on Fight TV if you're in the area, NWATIX.com. Gentlemen, it is an absolute honor and pleasure to talk to you. I wish you nothing but the best, all the best of luck in the tournament, and look forward to talk to you again real soon.
You too, guys. Thank you. And here's to Texas.
Yep. Next time we talk to you guys, we're Crockett Cup winners. So we'll talk to you here in the foreseeable future.